How are you doing this beautiful day?
I'm doing really well, thank you. It's great to see you, Julianne, and your wonderful smile.
Not everybody has the privilege of knowing who you are and what you're about. So I would love for you to just share with our audience a little bit about how you became you.
Well, let's give you the nutshell version of that then. I was in journalism, media, and the arts for about 20 years and loved it, really enjoyed pretty much every day at work. I was very blessed with my work. And it all came to a halt one day when I hurt my back on the job, heavy lifting. I walked away from work just fine. It was just a little snick in my spine that I felt. And I woke up the next morning at 3:30, wide awake in the most horrific pain. It was burning, it was vibrating, it was intense, and I was terrified. It got even more scary when I realized I couldn't move. I was paralyzed. I couldn't move a pinky. It was so frightening. So I started crying because I was so scared and realized very quickly, I can't get up and blow my nose. I'm going to drown if I don't stop. So I did some deep breathing and found that if I just moved a millimeter at a time, I could actually move. I just need to keep it slow because if I started trying to go fast, my body would go back into lockdown. It was like my body was my jail. So
Wow.
5 hours later, I was able to crawl to the phone in the living room, yank the cord to get it off the desk and onto the floor where I could reach it, called for help. And that was the beginning of a 7-year journey through back injury. I had 5 surgeries. They all failed. At one point I said to the doctors, is this my life? 4 walls, seeing you guys once a month when my father drives me here? They said, well, surgically you're at the end of the road. There is nothing left to do. And that really wasn't the answer I was looking for. It was like, you're going to be better next week. That's what I was hoping for. It wasn't what I got. So part of me was just in despair at that point. And another part of me, a quiet, deep part of me said, well, thank you for sharing. I did ask for your opinion. I'm going to go get well now. And that was the beginning of taking charge of my own healing, of becoming the captain of my healing team. Before I was just kind of floating along and just doing what the doctors said. And then I thought, okay, I'm on my own here, really. So I started exploring alternative healers. The first person I saw was a hypnotherapist who specialized in chronic pain. And he got me to the point in our first session where I could control the pain with my mind, like turn it off like a dial, which was incredible. I called my doctors as soon as I got home and said, I want you to get me off the narcotic painkillers. Give me a taper down program. I knew I was physically addicted, but thankfully I was not emotionally addicted. So within 3 months, I was off the narcotic painkillers, thank God. And about 3 months after that, my brain kind of kicked in. It started feeling more like a brain and less like cotton candy. I started getting restless. I said, I really want to be productive again. I still couldn't really sit, stand, or walk for more than 15 minutes a day, which was awesome, but it was not my idea of getting my life back. So I thought, well, there must be something I can do lying down. I talked to a vocational rehab guy since I was in workers' comp, and he said, this thing called the internet happened while you've been away, honey. Let's get you set up. We'll get you back to school online, since this clearly you're not going to a brick and mortar school anytime soon. You can get retrained for something. We'll set you up on the net and we'll just see where it goes. So I took a few classes, HTML coding, memoir writing, professional copywriting. And so I started my own copywriting business online while I was lying down, but none of my clients knew that. We did everything by phone, fax, and email. Yeah, there I am dating myself. We faxed back then, folks. Yes, we did, but it worked. And I started feeling more alive and alert. And I found that there was a women's entrepreneurial group of spiritual bent meeting a mile from my house. So I called them up and said, I'd love to come to your big marketing seminar so I can learn more, but I need to lie down. If I bring my own thing to lie down on, can I come? And they said, yeah, sure, come, be in the middle of the room, whatever you want. They were so friendly and lovely. And even though I felt kind of like an idiot, just lying on the floor like a child while the grown-ups were at the table with their water and their pencils and their computers. And a woman came over to me at the halftime and said, I want you to know, I think you're amazing. You are clearly the most committed woman in the room. I don't know what it took for you to get here, but I want you to know how inspiring you are to me. And that was such a huge shift in the way I saw myself. I felt like an idiot, but to somebody else, I was an inspiration. And that, I think, planted seeds for an awakening that came a few months later, where again, I woke up at 3:30 in the morning out of sound sleep, hearing these disembodied voices saying, Moira, it's time for you to get out of bed and heal the world. I'm like, okay. Having no idea what to do or how to do it, but knowing that my soul was lighting up as this was happening. And I realized that there was nothing more I would wanted to do in the world than to be a helper and healer in some way. And it was like, before that day, nothing could really get me out of bed. After that day, nothing was going to keep me in bed. I started working more conscientiously on building up my endurance. I learned about how to set up a website, how to create a talk. And I just went from there. This has been my life since then. I got back on my feet finally in 2004, and I've been just going ever since, and getting all kinds of training. Of course, I trained in hypnosis right away because clearly that worked for me. I hoped it could work for others. And I've added many other techniques to my toolkit along the way and made them my own, you know, the way you do. And right now, the focus is about confidence. For a long time, I was talking about abundance, how everybody deserves to have an abundant life, abundant love, abundant money, abundant fulfillment and satisfaction. But in working with people one-on-one and in groups, I came to realize that if you don't have confidence, you will never be abundant. And even if abundance accidentally happens to you, you will throw it away with both hands because you don't feel worthy of having it. So I've thought, okay, abundance is kind of abstract, but confidence is something more of us can relate to and think, oh yeah, confidence. Wow, really? Can you learn that? Yes, you can. I started off with zero confidence, like in the cellar. And that showed up as procrastination, as staying in toxic relationships way too long, getting into toxic relationships. That showed up as hiding and invisibility and loving writing all day long. But somehow, even though I wrote thousands of articles over the years, somehow I never had a book. Now I do. And that's become sort of the basis from which I talk about how women can have more confidence. I love for men to have more confidence too, and I'm all about helping them. What I found though is that women are a lot more likely to ask for help. So I just want women to know I'm here for you. I am all about supporting you and doing what I can to help you realize that you are the light, you are the love that you've been looking for.
So beautifully said. You know, and that's the other thing too, is I think women tend to put other women or people in general before themselves. And then, you know, we tend to look towards others for our self-confidence, not realizing it's self-confidence.
Yes. Yes, absolutely. It's so common. You're right. Women look to, you know, put others' needs before their own. And boy, is that going to suck the joy out of your life after a while, because inevitably you start wondering, when is it going to be my turn? When is somebody going to think about what I need? When is someone going to consider me the way I consider others? And it starts with ourselves, darling.
Exactly. And then, of course, once you're in that mode, it's not about giving anymore. It becomes conditional. So the whole dynamic and the energy changes anyway. So who wants to be like that?
Absolutely. Yeah, it's like you become aware and other people around you become aware, oh, they're giving me this, so I will, to bribe me.
Exactly.
I'm bribing them to love me. I'm bribing them to
So
need me.
there's something that you say that I love, and it's something that I always say. It's similar to what I say. I always say, you're not broken. And you say there's nothing wrong with you. And
Yes.
I would love you to speak into that a little bit more, because I think that, you know, especially in like self-help, I don't know when it became about fixing yourself as opposed to just living more of your life. So
Yes.
I would love for you to share your thoughts.
My thoughts about that would be along the lines of, I believe that we are all whole and perfect and complete, as the Course in Miracles tells us. And I think that we know that at the inception of our coming into human life, at our conception of coming into the womb of one particular woman, and then maybe we pick up her chemicals, the chemicals of her emotions, the chemicals of her thoughts, and they become imbued in us. And if she is like most people, your mom has been pretty much caught up in the drama of human life, and she's forgotten that she's light. So you forget. She has forgotten that she is love itself. And so you forget it too, even though you know it still, somewhere deep inside of you, somewhere in your bones. So much of the pain of human life comes from that forgetting that we're love itself, love embodied. And so what I look to do is to help people let go of the drama that they've taken on, let go of the stories, let go of the judgments. That can be difficult to do because up until the age of 7, our brain is in the theta brainwave, which is the brainwave that you're in when you're asleep and dreaming. It's the brainwave that hypnotherapists use because it is the brainwave in which your mind is most receptive to new ideas. So every new idea that comes into you up to the age of 7, you take on. It becomes part of your brain structure. It forms neural pathways through your brain. And that can be very hard to get past. Some children, as we know, are more strong-minded than others. A father will say something mean and the child will say, I don't think so. And there are other kids who say, well, maybe you've got a point. Let me look at this. And other kids who say, oh, I'm nothing. He's right. I'm terrible. And so we take on the judgments of others and keep on judging ourselves when there is actually nothing wrong with us. So much of raising a child is about trying to control the chaos on 2 legs that a child is.
That is so well said.
So it becomes more about, how can I channel this energy into something productive, or at least something less destructive, best case scenario. And so it becomes more about how can I control this person rather than how can I nurture and support them. And that's an understandable thing, especially now. People are so frazzled. We're all on the edge of stress a great deal of the time. And so it can be more challenging to stay mindful about, okay, let's take a deep breath. What is a loving way that I can respond to this? What is a way that I can respond to this in a loving way that the child can hear? And our inner child needs that kind of nurturing too. So many of our thoughts are just recordings of what people said to us a long time ago. They're not even our own. They just got instilled from somebody else. And yet so many of us tend to believe every thought we think. We think, oh, I thought this thought, it must be true. But it may be a recording of something hurtful that somebody said a long time ago, so long ago, you don't even remember them saying it, but it becomes the critical voice in your head. And so a lot of what I like to do is taking a look at that critical inner voice and turning the observation on it, and instead of believing it mindlessly, whatever it says, to question it, to say, why do you think that? How do you know that's true? Why would you say something so mean? Or going deeper to ask, I know you're trying to protect me by saying these things to me, and I appreciate that. And what is it that you really want from me? What do you want from me? I probably want from myself too. What's a more loving way that we can get to that? What's a more gentle and compassionate way that we can get to that? Because when we're attacked, we tend to contract. Even when our own thoughts attack us, we tend to contract. And when other people attack us verbally, physically, emotionally, we tend to contract. That makes us small, makes it harder to locate the light within ourselves. But when you know it's there, or when you decide it's in there somewhere, let me just find it. It must be here. It's the spark of life in me. It's got to be in here someplace. And to nurture that, to support that, and talking kindly to your frightened or angry inner child can be a great way to start bringing in some comfort, start bringing in some joy. I mean, just when your inner child feels like you're paying attention to her or him, that can be so healing in itself. So many people grow up feeling like nobody really sees me. Nobody sees my gifts. Nobody sees my humanity. Nobody cares what I want. It's all about what they want. So many of us, especially women, are taught that other people's needs are more important than our own. You know, you need to give and give and give all your time, love, money, energy, and save none for yourself, because that would be selfish, which is terrifically ironic, because pretty much the only people who accuse you of being selfish are the ones who are saying, you should do it my way. Now, that's not selfish. I don't know what, so the shoe is actually on the other foot there. But it's such a fear we have that if we're selfish, we'll lose love. If we think about our own needs, we'll lose love. If we put our needs before those of others, we're being selfish, self-centered, egocentric, conceited. You know, who do you think you are? And that can be very threatening, because so many of us grow up with little enough love in our lives, little enough love in our families. So the risk of losing even a morsel, a molecule of the love you're able to have seems absolutely terrifying. We don't want to be abandoned. The thing is, though, that when we set aside our preferences, our desires, our dreams, our goals, for the sake of somebody else, to sacrifice ourselves and what's important to us so others can have what they want, that is the most profound act of abandonment we can perform, because it is self-abandonment. You're making out like you don't matter, like your dreams don't matter. It's a profound betrayal of self. On the other side of that, Shakespeare talks about how to thine own self be true. And when you are true to yourself, it follows as the night does the day. You cannot be false to any man or woman, I would add. So it comes to deciding who do I want to be, to start inquiring, how can I be true to myself? One good way to be true to yourself is to be kind to yourself, to treat yourself with compassion. When you have a dream, to treat it with interest. We're really the stewards of our dreams. If we don't take care of them, if we don't nurture them and see about turning them into reality, who will do that? But these dreams, these passions, they come from our soul. And the funny thing about the soul is it doesn't take kindly to being ignored.
That's so true.
So when you pay attention to your soul, your heart's desires, which is pretty much the same thing, and honor those and pay attention to them and say, well, what is one thing we can do today? What is one thing we can do today to bring this closer to reality? How can I support this dream? How can I support myself living this dream, walking toward it? That's the beginning of integrity, of realizing that you matter just as much as anybody else, no more, no less, just as much. But if you look at the attention deficit you've got, how much of my attention goes to other people? How much of my attention goes to me? You might notice a little imbalance there. It's just like, maybe this deficit needs to be addressed. Maybe, especially now, this is the time to go within. Another way to be true to yourself is to ask, what do I really want? Some of us have no idea. It's like, nobody ever asked me that. What do I want? That's crazy talk.
Us, including us. We don't ask ourselves, like you said. So
yeah, we don't ask ourselves either. So that can be a real spark for inquiry, of introspection, of, well, what do I want? And that can begin with, what's important to me? What matters to me? What do I really want to do before I move on to the next adventure? What would I put on my bucket list? And start looking at, how can I start doing that now? Because tomorrow is promised to nobody. To be able to honor what you're here to express, to shine the light that you are, to embody the love that you are, that is a great thing. In a way, it almost doesn't matter what you do. You could be raising children, you could be painting pictures, you could be giving talks, you could be living telesummits, you could be hanging out on the beach drinking a margarita. But it's who you are, it is who you're being, and that's where confidence comes in, because your natural state of being is confidence, just as your natural state of being is joy, like what we're talking about here, how we can have more joy. And that comes back to being true to yourself. That gives your soul joy. And that's important because it's kind of like the saying goes, you know, if mama ain't happy, ain't nobody happy. If your soul ain't happy, how happy can you be? How joyful can you be? So feeding your soul, feeding your heart, nurturing your dreams, these are all ways to create joy. And it builds confidence along the way because you're taking action. A lot of people wait to take action until they feel confident. Confidence comes from action. We got it backwards. You take action and then you gain confidence. And it's confidence from authentic lived experience. It's the real thing. It's not just rah, rah, woohoo, you can do it. It's like, whoa, I did it.
So you bring up a good point, and I've discovered that a lot of people wait. They're waiting for joy. They're waiting for happiness. They're waiting for self-confidence. It's just they spend a lot of time waiting instead of living, like genuinely being present and asking themselves those questions. And something else that you mentioned too that I just want to really touch on before I ask you a different sort of question is we need to ask ourselves better questions, and that's what I heard you saying. And I just want to make sure that we hit that one home because there's that inner critic just, yipping away and that, the talks, and we don't have to believe, like you said, every single thought that we have. It doesn't make it true just because we think it. So that's but why do you think that people tend to wait? Is there a way to notice it and move forward?
There are a couple of things. One is that a lot of children are taught to wait. Wait until daddy comes home. Wait for dinner. Wait for this, wait for that. Wait until Christmas. Wait till your birthday. Wait till school starts. Wait till school is over. Children are taught to wait, and some of them do it more willingly than others, but that it seems like most kids, especially since they're, when you're young, going say from, Thanksgiving to Christmas is a good part of their lifetime. It can be a very long time. So we get trained to wait. We get trained to wait for permission. That's a big piece here. We're waiting for somebody to give us permission to pursue our dreams, to follow our hearts, to follow our bliss. And the thing is that if you notice that you start thinking a lot about, gosh, I'd really love to do this. I'd really love to do this. A good question to ask yourself is, what am I waiting for?
That's true.
What do I need to know that if I knew it, I could move forward with this? Because we're not getting any younger here, kids. So waiting.
I learned from my parents too, and this is interesting. So they were my dad, my stepmom. My mom passed away when I was younger. So when I say my parents, I mean them. Anyway, they always, they put off things like traveling, for example. Well, we'll do that. Now there's COVID. Now that, this cruise they had planned and trip down south they had planned, they can't do it now because they waited. And that was such a good lesson for me. I'm not saying that they'll never go, but I'm just saying it's a good point that you might not get that opportunity. So, I mean, I think people forget that we are human and that there will become an end to this meat suit that we're in. So yes. Why aren't we living?
And we don't even have to wait till it's over to live in other ways, to find joy in other ways. One of the gifts I've found with this situation is that what is really important to me is becoming clearer and clearer. And things that I thought were terribly important maybe don't matter as much as I thought they did, or I can live without them. So the inner adventure we can go on, and the virtual adventures we can go on, I know they're not as satisfying to, especially the kinesthetic people who really love to experience being in the world and doing things and going places. I love that too. It's not the same thing doing it virtually. But maybe this is a chance to check back in, because being caught up in busyness and being in the world and going places and doing things is a great distraction for finding out what's really important to you. It's a great distraction from finding out who you are today. Some of us have made up our minds about ourselves, about what we're like when we were children or teenagers or young adults. And maybe we haven't checked back in for a while. Who am I today? What is important to me today? What's important? What matters to me now? What would I really like to do? And there can be a lot of freedom in that, because you may realize that a goal that you've always beaten yourself up for never reaching, you suddenly realize, I don't care whether that ever happens or not. That can come or go. I do not care. So you can let yourself off the hook from something that you've been reproaching yourself with for goodness knows how long, and just say, okay, that dream didn't come about, and it's okay. It was important to me then. It's much less important to me now. This is what I'd like to do instead. So that's the other important piece of inquiry, is like, okay, we can let these old dreams go, these old goals fall by the wayside. What do I want instead? Because it's unnatural for us to be in a state of total neutrality and utter lack of desire. Most folks who are like that are dead. When you're alive, you want stuff. There's always around the next corner, over the next mountain, or just what would I like to see happen today? What would I like to see happen tomorrow? And as humans, we really need something to look forward to. So how productive and joyful would it be to say, okay, what would I like to look toward, to work toward now? What would really light me up? What can I do to work toward that today? It's easy to say, oh, there's not enough time, there's not enough money, I can't get out in the world. And in the end, so much of what you do is on the inside anyway. Your surroundings are important to some degree, and they're less important than you coming to a place of commitment. One of the biggest mental traps I see us falling into, and including myself definitely, is there's no way I can do this. Because there's this and this and this, there's no way that I can do that. So it's important to realize that's a decision. It may seem to be a fact, but it's actually a decision. And your brain, being very obliging, just goes along and say, oh yeah, there's no way I can do that. If you turn it around and make it a question, how can I do this? How could I do this? Maybe this is close to me right now. What can I do instead to forward my dream, to get toward my goal? What can I do right now? Because your brain works very much like a Google search engine, or vice versa. You ask the question and it gathers the information from wherever it is in the collective consciousness, and it will bring you an answer. And it's up to you then to say, okay, now I know, or oh, okay, let's do that today. Whatever you choose to do with that information is entirely up to you. So as you say, you're very right. It's good to ask better questions that are fruitful, because questions open the mind. Statements close it down and put you in no or inaction. Questions put you into activity and interest and curiosity, which are all qualities that move you forward.
That was beautiful. I'm definitely quoting you on that one. Yes. Oh my gosh, that was so wonderful. I love that. Oh, that just makes my heart feel bigger.
Me too.
So we are running out of time already. I just want to see if there's anything else in particular that you want to touch on.
I would like to offer one exercise that really brings joy into my day-to-day life. I call it pause to praise. One thing I've noticed is that, especially now, the day just goes by, it flows like a river and there's nothing to mark it. When you pause to praise, when you finish doing something, gosh, the joy of completing something, how fabulous is that? But most of us just gloss over and go, okay, that's done, next. And when you pause to praise and just say, I did it, or I'm so glad that's done, or wow, that turned out better than I thought, or thank you for helping me, whoever was helping me to do this. So to express gratitude to whatever helped you and appreciation for yourself for doing it. You get that wonderful feeling of completion. You get a chance to have a celebration, which can involve, whatever you like. And you get a chance to give yourself a bit of nurturing and appreciation. My gosh, a word of encouragement can make such a difference. If you're waiting for other people to encourage you, you might have a very long wait. But you can have more encouragement and inspiring thoughts and words right away. They're right inside of us. And just taking the moment to be mindful and say, okay, that's done. Oh, that feels so good. I'm so glad to have that done. And look, it actually came out pretty well, or it came out great, or wow, that's so much better than I thought. And just taking that time to appreciate, that brings more joy into your life right away. And then pausing to praise, wow, that lunch was so good, or wow, that show really touched my heart, or I just had the best conversation with my friend. Just pausing to praise and give thanks can bring in joy moments any time of night or day.
Yes, I couldn't agree more. And I think especially Americans, we tend to be human doings as opposed to human beings, and pausing to praise turns you back into being and being present and appreciative and gratitude, all those things that bring you joy. So I
Yes,
really appreciate that. And I know that you have a free gift for the audience. So if you wouldn't mind sharing about that, we'd love to hear.
absolutely. As a confidence expert, I am asked all the time, how can I feel more confident, like today? So, which is great. I love being asked that. So what I have is a little guidebook with 3 tips that you can use right away to start having more faith in yourself, to start feeling I'm okay, to start feeling like I can do it. And these are all techniques that work from the inside out. You don't need to put on anything special or light a candle or anything like that. It can just be, go into these tips, be in the moment, and you can find them at freeconfidencetips.com. So that's freeconfidencetips.com, and you will find this lovely little handbook full of love and compassion for you, and it's just sitting there online waiting to support you and love you through your days, to love you through your life.
That's beautiful. I love it. Thank you so much for being here with us today. I really appreciate all of your knowledge and your beautiful wisdom, and just your, I don't know, just the confidence that you bring, and the reason why, or the, let me see if I can say this, that you make it okay to be you and to not forget yourself. I love that. Thank you so much.
You are so welcome, Julianne. I love that you've made your mission to spread joy in this way. And thank you for making me a part of it. I truly appreciate you and those who are listening. Thank you.